An example of how we work together, we had the primary, and in Maryland, again, we have early voting, which is a really, really wonderful thing, in my opinion. And we're a small county. We are the smallest county in the state of Maryland, and we only have about 90,000 population. So we only have 23 polling places. But during early voting, we only have one, and it's at the election headquarters, which is right across the street here. At the election headquarters, the Republicans have a tent, we have a tent, and they put up 1,000,000 signs, we put up 1,000,000 signs, and we try to influence the people who vote. So we have to staff that, okay? Now the primary, we were staffing it. What was that? It was about a week, wasn't it? So we had to staff it from 6 in the morning until 7 or 8 at night. Now, rather than in the old days where the Central Committee and the volunteers basically did all this time we had a much better, we had much more cooperation from the candidates. And we had particularly two candidates, Michael Jackson, who really represents Prince George's County and Calvert. They split it into new districts. So his staff was there. Craig Contra, who was running for sheriff, his staff was there. And so that helped, and that's an example of how we work together. We have the county fair coming up. And last night, that's one of the things at the meeting, I was assured by both Mr. Jackson and Contra that they would again help us staff the tent. And we'll have a tent there representation. We hand out our materials, try to, get our message out and influence the voters.
So, when is election day and how can the youth get involved?
Are you talking about the general election?
Yes, the next election.
November 4th?
November 4th.
Yep, Tuesday, November 4th, and the youth can, here, our Young Democrats is is a regional chapter. It's a regional group. It's Southern Maryland Young Democrats. So we look at it affecting the youth turnout and youth involvement in 3 counties. So they can certainly get involved that way, or they can come here to the Central Committee headquarters and ask. And we work very well together with the Central Committees in all 3 counties. So if a young person decides they want to get involved and they approach any of the Central Committees, they'll get us in touch with them. And like I said, it's all about getting in touch with the voters, so that is what our Young Dems is going to be focusing on through this election process, is getting involved with the voters, getting in touch with the voters, and letting them know how important it really is to vote. And the Young Dems will be focusing solely on getting out the youth vote in November.
Okay. And for the last question, how would you say that the committee relates to cultural identity?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
Sure, I was just asking that for the last question, how would you say that the committee relates to cultural identity?
I'm not quite sure what you mean by that.
I have a definition ready to go, just in
Oh,
case,
okay.
if you want to look at that.
We like that. Read that, Dwayne. So,
Cultural identity is the identity or feeling of belonging to, as part of the self-conception and self-perception to nationality, ethnicity, religion, social class, generation, locality, and any kind of social group that has its own distinct culture.
And that's, the rest was just my notes.
Oh, okay.
my God, that is a mouthful, isn't
Is
it?
it?
It reminds me of going back to college, in one of those philosophy classes, sociology, psychology, whatever. A lot of times people, when we talk about cultural identity, obviously because of the society we live in, they talk about the relations between blacks and whites, male, female, and so on and so forth. Calvert County is interesting in that, like I said, we are split between Democrats and Republicans fairly evenly. We have about 12% minority population, black population. We have some Hispanics, but and a few Native Americans, or as I found out, prefer to be called Indians. And we don't really have a lot of Hispanic. I don't know. That's about it, isn't it? It's primarily whites, blacks, some Hispanics, and some Indians because of the nature of the area. The Indians in this area have been around for a long time, and I think we all relate quite well. I think we do very well, particularly the Democratic Party. All our events are well integrated. Another interesting thing along the cultural line. Dwayne, why don't you talk about the gender balance thing? I think that's really important. Makes us unique.
It does. It makes it. The Democratic Party elects its officers at the local level during the primary every 4 years. So we just elected our new officers, and as per our state bylaws, the state of Maryland requires that all of the local committees have equal number of male and female members. So once the election is over, then we have to go through an interview process and interview members of the public from our own party, so that way we balance the number of males and females. As Thomas said, we have a fairly low, especially when you compare us to the rest of Central Maryland. We have a low minority population. It would be great to see that increase. It would be great to see us diversify, but I will say that our Central Committee here in Calvert has been very dedicated to ensuring that we have representation from all of the minority populations, between African American, Native American, and the Caucasian population. They're all represented on our Central Committee currently. And then we also look at occupational varieties, and we try to make sure that we're incorporating as much diversity as we can possibly on our committees. Which I think goes back to what Thomas says. It helps us work better together. It helps us understand each other's needs and reach out to the different communities. So that way we're reaching out and turning out voters from all different cultures.
We obviously feel that we are more representative of our society at large, since we do represent labor, we represent young people, we represent minorities, we represent the intellectuals, a lot of the college people. So we do have a good mix. An example, our last election, we had to vote. When I say we, the citizens had to vote for, the Democratic citizens had to vote for 9 members of the Central Committee. Well, guess what happened? 6 women were elected and 3 men. Consequently, we have to have 3 more male members to gender balance it. And I think that's one of the most unique things about us, is that we have this. Very few states, I don't know any other states that have it. It may be some other states, but I think it makes Maryland very progressive. In a lot of ways, I think Maryland is a very progressive state, and I'm really happy to live here. We have a Democratic government, and we've, even though in Calvert County we currently are represented by Republicans on the county level, we have the Senate President, Mike Miller, living here. We have Steny Hoyer, who is the second most powerful Democrat in Congress, living here, representing us. So, on the state level, we are very well represented, and it doesn't hurt to have powerful people on your side.
Okay, well, those are all of my questions, so thank you for having me.
Thank you. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, we'd love talking to you, and if we can help you with anything else, we have a map of Calvert County here. We have some examples of things we do for people. For example, the Affordable Care Act. We pass this out and explain it to people. We tell people, what does it mean to be a Democrat? And if you go out there, you'll see the various campaign signs.